Hey everyone, welcome back to the Push Pace podcast, a podcast where we take a deep dive look at a whole variety of different things in an attempt to help better understand what it takes to push ourselves towards a better and happier us. And today's episode, I think, is going to shed a light on a very, very important topic. And today's topic is going to be about weight management, but not necessarily in the way you might think about it. I'm going to be talking from my own personal experience and my own struggle with weight management and how it's a bit of a different struggle than others might think. And my whole goal with this is just to sort of open your mind a little bit to understanding that just because someone might not look like you, they might be going through a set of struggles in sort of their own way. And this is, again, related to weight management as far as, we're talking body fat, muscle mass, weight, the amount of mass times gravity on Earth that you are. And my issue primarily that I've been dealing with for the majority of my adult life is not about keeping weight off, but actually keeping weight on. And so I'm going to discuss on how I do my best to manage to keep whatever muscularity I can, being 6'8", about 215 to 220 pounds, completely vegan for over 2.5 years now, and with a very, very active lifestyle. What I do to try to maintain the muscle mass on my body that I currently have. And I think in this, I want to talk a little bit about sort of societal expectations of individuals in the form of like femininity and masculinity. And a lot of times we consider, at least for a male's perspective, the idea of masculinity, of big muscles and, logging like lumberjack shirts and doing men's work and sweaty and beards and stuff. And beards is a whole other topic. I can't even grow a beard. But, we all have this image of what sort of masculinity looks like, or sort of a general society-like expectation of masculinity. And that's to be big, strong, manly, and muscular. And, the same goes for the opposite for femininity as well. Like we think of, a lot of people consider like the societal norm of a female is small, petite, and, a whole variety of different things, but we don't need to get into the details. But obviously society has like these like expectations that I think we all subconsciously sort of think about. Obviously, we should not have to play into these or really, really care about what other people think, because in the end, you, and if you're happy with you, that's what matters. But we have to discuss it. I mean, it's something we all think about. It's, I tell myself all the time, don't worry about what other people think. Don't worry about what other people think. Yet still, like, I find myself in this position, like, am I masculine enough? Am I muscular enough? And that's just kind of how I think we all think, or maybe it's just me. I don't know. Let me know what you think. But this idea of sort of maintaining a level of masculinity, a level of muscle mass, is something that I've sort of struggled to do as a very, very tall person with a very, very active lifestyle. But it does play into my own goals. Like, I like the feeling of maintaining muscle mass on my body, and that's my own personal goal. But maintaining that has definitely been a struggle in a way that a lot of people don't think about. I get talked to all the time by clients or members at Orange Theory, or the clients that I train one-on-one with. Diet becomes a very, very difficult discussion because everyone just assumes that I just don't know what they're dealing with. I tell people that I have to eat 5,000 calories a day to maintain my weight, and everyone says, "Oh, I wish I had your problem." But I don't think you really do wish you had my problem once I kind of get into explaining like what my days entail on a daily basis. It's a weight management struggle, but just in a different way. But for me to maintain my 215, my 220 pounds of weight, keeping my fitness the way it is, that's my own personal goal. And here's how I do it. So the biggest thing when it comes to eating 5,000 calories a day, which that fluctuates a little bit, of course. Sometimes it's, it can be around 4,800 on my non-super active days. Sometimes it's higher, 5,500 or more. It all depends on sort of the activity and the day. But when it comes to eating that much food, to maintain mass without shrinking down, because I just want to say, as a tall guy, like tall, skinny guys, sorry, to bring this back to like the societal expectations, like people see tall guys as like lanky, uncoordinated, just kind of freaky. Like we're supposed to look like lanky freaks, and trying to not fall into that norm is the challenge. Anyway, eating frequency is the most important thing that I deal with on a daily basis. And I try to eat a full meal, or as close to a full meal as I can, every 3 to 4 hours. And I'm, depending on how frequently you eat, that might sound kind of crazy, but it's just the lifestyle that you have to live to get in that amount of food. Waking up, first thing, go to the kitchen and make whatever meal it's going to be. For me, I prioritize smoothies in the morning. Now, smoothies, they have their positives and their drawbacks. And when it comes to a weight loss goal, you have to be very, very careful when it comes to smoothies, because it's really easy to pack a lot of calories into a big smoothie. And that is why I have them every single day, is because they pack a ton of calories, and it helps me just get a bunch of food down in one straight shot. Because, of course, you're blending a bunch of food together. And my daily smoothies, that's where actually I get a majority, probably like the biggest meal of the day is that first initial smoothie. And I made a few videos of this before, but the smoothie usually includes about 2 cups of water, a full cup of soy milk, usually between 3 to 6 bananas, depending on the size of the bananas, a full cup of oatmeal, a scoop of protein powder, typically 4 to 5 servings of peanut butter or almond butter with hemp seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, mixed berries on top of that, and maybe a little bit of creatine powder if I'm doing a weightlifting session that day. All of that goes into the first big morning smoothie, and it comes out typically it can be between 1,600 and close to 2,000 calories in one straight shot. And that's just the norm of what I do. Some people, that's all they're eating an entire day. And I want you to think about how full that might make you, because this smoothie makes you full, makes me not want to eat, especially not eat again in 3 to 4 hours. But it's what has to be done. So 3 to 4 hours rolls by, and then time for the next sort of breakfast of the day, which typically is like something like an almond butter toast. You see, I rely heavily on high-fat foods, because we had a discussion about this in the last podcast about understanding macronutrient calorie breakdown, where fat calories, or fat as a macronutrient, has about 9 calories per gram, compared to carbohydrate or protein, which has 4 calories per gram. So the analogy here is like if I ate a full cup of rice, just rice on its own, that might have 200 or close to 300 calories or so. But if I ate, a quarter cup of just peanut butter or almond butter, that has way more calories, and it's not filling up my stomach as much. Because again, when you're trying to shove in so many calories, there's only so much room, like physical room inside of your tummy, that you can keep all that in. And so a heavy reliance on fat calories, hence the 4 to 5 servings of almond butter or peanut butter in the morning smoothie, like that right there, that's close to 900 calories on its own. But it's not in a huge amount of mass. And so that's why with almond butter toast as like my second breakfast, or peanut butter toast, that's a easy way to add in a bunch of calories into something that's just not going to take up a bunch of space in the stomach. And then from there, 3 to 4 hours go by. And as a vegan, it's very important to eat a variety of foods. I shouldn't say that. As in anyone, it's important to eat a variety of foods, because the more variety of foods that you're taking in, you're getting a whole range of phytochemicals and phytonutrients that are doing good things in your body that science doesn't really quite understand to the level that it probably is happening at. And so I try to eat a whole variety throughout the day. There was a ton of different stuff in that morning smoothie. And then for like my lunch and my dinner meals, I try to base it around some sort of starchy carbohydrate, just as like the main sort of savory filling portion. So that might be rice. Typically for me, I actually eat more white rice instead of brown rice, because brown rice has a ton of fiber and it makes you feel fuller. And for someone like me who's eating so much, I don't need to feel fuller. And with all of that fiber going through my body, through just the sheer amount of calories in general, I don't need the extra fiber from something like brown rice. And so that's why for me, and maybe for someone who is trying to gain more strength and size, eating a lot of calories, but is maybe consuming too much fiber as it is already, white rice might be a better option. But if your goal is weight loss, then brown rice might be the option. Just like not adding 4 to 5 servings of nut butter into a smoothie is a good option if you're going for a weight loss smoothie, for instance. You'd much more want to err on the side of like more berries or more green vegetables, more water in there, things that are less calories. But I digress away from the smoothies. We'll talk smoothies again at some other point. But like I said, for the lunch and dinner meals, typically it's some sort of starchy food like potatoes or rice of some sort. And then from there, adding in some sort of beans, lentils, or some sort of like soy meat product. Maybe that might just be tofu on its own, tempeh, or like soy beef crumbles. I try to think about the higher density plant protein foods because although protein is not a miracle nutrient, although it's not a nutrient of concern as far as most people go, depending on your fitness goals, you want to be hitting a certain protein intake. Not nearly as high as a lot of like bodybuilders think it needs to be. But it's something that I'm always trying to think about when it comes to making my meals. And you can even think back to the smoothie. While I threw in a little scoop of protein powder in there, it actually, you don't have to do that because with things like the nut butters and the oats and the hemp seeds and the flax seeds and chia seeds, like that's a bunch of protein in there already. But it's something that's always on my mind. And so when it's making these big meals, on the stovetop, I'll try to stir fry together some vegetables like onions and garlic and peppers and broccoli, to give myself, again, that variety of different phytonutrients because these foods are healthy for you. However, I'm not eating a ton of them because they're not a ton of calories. If you're someone who's aiming for weight loss, you need to be adding 2 to 3 cups of broccoli with your meals because it's going to fill you up, make you feel so full. But a cup of broccoli is like 20 calories. You see what I'm saying? And so with needing to eat a bunch of calories, I do want to include the vegetables, and I do, just not to the degree that I would if it was going to be sort of more of a weight loss oriented goal. So adding in those onions, garlic, broccoli, peppers, things like that, and then that along with some sort of beans, lentils, tofu, tempeh, something in that range, sort of mixing that all together with a high calorie sauce. And that's right, I said high calorie sauce again because it's the goal for me personally to eat the ton of calories. While if you're someone who's looking for weight loss, you might be aiming for more towards a low calorie tasty sauce. And there's a whole variety of them out there. My favorite being mustard on its own. It's really low calories and it's really, really good. But for me, I'm adding in things like tahini, which is like a sesame seed based sauce, or a higher calorie like barbecue sauce. And you can say what you want about the sugar content and stuff, but again, for me, the main focus is getting in the calories to maintain the body weight. And so putting all these essentially into a big bowl with some added seasoning and stuff, just mixing around, playing around with a whole variety of seasonings that are out there, mixing that all into a big bowl, and that's the lunch meal. That's the meal that I'm eating for lunch, and then typically for dinner as well during the night. Now, one place where I really struggle with my own weight management, and I'm using very specific wording there because we all struggle with weight management in some way or another. I struggle with my weight management when it comes to going to work and working as a fitness trainer or as a coach for Orange Theory Fitness, where I'm constantly on my feet and trying to provide high energy classes, sometimes very typically 4 classes in a row. Sometimes, if I'm maybe covering for another coach, sometimes up to 6 classes straight in a row, jumping around, demoing exercises, moving my big body around and burning a ton of calories at the same time, and then just not having breaks to eat. For the coaching staff, if we have new guests that are arriving to the studio during the typical 15-minute breaks between classes, if there's a new guest, instead of getting some time to maybe eat a snack or something, you have to work with that new guest, show them everything, like show them how to row, show them how the treadmills work, etc. And then all of a sudden, boom, time for the next hour, time to go. And if there's guests back to back every classes, you've just gone 6 hours straight, non-stop. No eating, just sips of water and non-stop go. And for me, like that actually provides a little bit of anxiety as far as knowing that like I'm not getting in the food that I need to at like these sort of 3 to 4 hour intervals that I'm aiming for. And it shouldn't provide me with anxiety because it's just, it's just how things go, and it's not the end of the world. But it's something that I think about. It's something that I struggle with. Same with going out for a weekend. Let's say you want to go take a trip over to, I don't know, here in California, we have Apple Hill. You go to Apple Hill in the fall time to go take a look at the apple orchards and things like that. Well, for me, it's not, oh, cool, let's go to Apple Hill for the day. It's, okay, well, if we're going to be out for, 6 to 8 hours, well, I should probably eat a huge meal about maybe 10 to 15 minutes before we leave, and I can bring some different snacks. Maybe I'll pack a triple-decker or a 4-piece almond butter sandwich as well, some trail mix, maybe a couple pieces of fruit. Is there going to be food out there to eat? Are we going to go to a restaurant later? Like all of these thought processes of how to prepare for the day, it's very similar to the weight management struggles of someone going out to eat with someone and having to choose the healthier option, the more conscious option. It's all a thought process, and it all takes effort. But working through those long hours at work, having quick snacks on hand can make a huge difference. And I've tried a whole variety of different quick snacks. Like I mentioned about prioritizing like high-fat foods, nuts and trail mix are great. However, they're great for activities that don't involve you talking a lot, because very often the few times that I tried eating trail mix, like sort of, for just a quick handful for 5 seconds before having to coach the next, or before having to say whatever it might be, nuts get caught in your teeth. And then you start breathing in and trying to speak, and little tiny nut pieces fly and just like nick the back of your throat, and you start choking. So I don't recommend nuts and trail mix for things if you're going to be speaking a lot. However, for things like road trips, or if you're driving somewhere, you don't know what you're going to be doing out and about, you always got to have food on you, at least in my case, and having a high calorie food like trail mix is great. However, for things like coaching, having things like bananas are really awesome, because a banana is such a quick food to eat. It just slides. It really just goes right down. It's a mushy fruit without any sort of pits or anything like that to work around. I think I can eat a banana literally in like 6 seconds. I've gotten so good at it. But that serves as a way for me to get in just a little bit amount of calories for a few seconds to keep things going. And that's one of the struggles that I deal with personally. But yeah, planning life around eating is just part of the struggle. And that's why I'm hoping that this talk here is sort of giving you an insight to that everyone deals with weight management struggles in one way or another, and that you can't just write off someone like me who's, very tall, very, very lean naturally. Like I'm lean naturally. Like if I stopped eating, if I was eating the way I wanted to and not forcing myself to eat, because I didn't mention that, I'm forcing myself to eat sometimes because it's part of in line with my fitness goals and how I want my body to look. If I ate the way like that felt natural to me, realistically, I would probably drop 10 to 15 pounds in a month. No problem. And that would be easy. But that would bring with it a few different insecurities for me. Or I wouldn't like how my body looked in that way. And just because I'm someone who's naturally leaner and can lose weight easily doesn't mean that I'm not struggling with my own weight management issues. So that's something to consider, whether you work with people that are naturally lean, or someone in your family that is like that. It's very important not to just write off how they are and say like, oh, you don't get it, or boy, I wish I had that problem, because you might wish you don't have it, because if you wanted to eat like I did, like you have to do it every day. You don't get the choice of, oh, I'm just not going to. You have to. Do you really want that? So it's just a different perspective. It's hopefully something that just opens your minds a little bit to the different weight management struggles. But I think it's important for us to understand like what is leading to our own true happiness, and what is societal's expectation of what you should look like. Like I've accepted the fact that I can't grow a full beard, and that's okay. Well, that might not be the most masculine or manly thing. Like who cares what other people are thinking? And the same goes with how you feel and your body. You need to set your own goals for yourself and be proud of the work you put in. And every day, just get up and try to do things a little bit better towards whatever your goals might be. And everyone's goals are going to be a little bit different. So let's try not to get so wrapped up in what society thinks about our bodies and do what works for us, but understand that we're all going through our own struggles in one way or another, and we just got to keep on keeping on, giving the best that we can. I know that talk was kind of all over the place, but I appreciate you guys for taking the time to listen today. I want to continue to talk more about food and weight management and things like that, because I think there's just a lot of things to discuss, a lot of people that I want to have on the podcast to talk about these struggles and things that we can just work through together. So just want to thank you guys so much again for listening. Please rate the podcast if you haven't already. Share it to your friends, anyone who might be interested in this. And let me know what you guys think. I just want to make this a beautiful and wonderful experience for all of us. So let me know what you think. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys in the next Push Pace podcast.